Okay, may I request everyone to stand up? Can anyone lead the prayer? Okay, you may. Okay, thank you. Good morning, class. Okay, before you sit down, please pick up some pieces of paper under your chair or beside your chair. But before we proceed to our discussion, let me first check your attendance. Is anyone absent for today? Okay, none. Okay, very good. I guess none of you are absent for today's discussion. Let's give ourselves a hand of applause. But before we proceed to our discussion for today, let's have a review. So can anyone still remember what have we tackled in our last discussion? Okay, you may. Very good, that is correct. We've tackled about autobiography. Can anyone give the definition of autobiography? Yes? Very good, that is correct. So I guess every one of you have really understand what we have tackled in our last discussion. But for now, let's have an exercise activity. Is anyone ready for an exercise activity? Okay. So this activity is called in the right order. You have to arrange the letter below that fits to the message. So, number 1 here, for example, let's answer the number 1. The son, blank, not leave his mother alone. He felt a great responsibility to take back his mother home. So the blank here in the sentence, you have to answer it. But if you want to get the answer, you have to arrange first the scramble word. So the scramble word is the D-O-U-C-F. So let's arrange it. So it could be could. If you put the could in the blank, it goes like this. The son could not leave his mother alone. He felt a great responsibility to take back his mother home. So could is the right answer. So check, number 1. So the rest is you're going to answer it. I will just give you 2 minutes to answer the exercise activity. I know that you can do it. Okay, is anyone done for number 3? Okay, next slide. Okay, time's up. Let's answer the number 2. So number 2 sentence, the possibility of the farmer to leave his old mother on the top of a mountain, blank, be done or else both of them will die. So the underlined word here is the possibility. So possibility means that it is not certain to happen. So the scramble word is S-O-H-U-L-D. So if we arrange the word, it goes like should. So should is a helping verb. The possibility of the farmer to leave his old mother on the top of a mountain should be done or else both of them will die. So should in the word underline possibility is that it is not certain if your mother will get out of the top of the mountain. So number 3, the governor realized his mistakes. So with the ability he has as a governor, he blank abolished the law. So the scrambled word is IWLWL. So if we arrange the scrambled word, it goes like will. So will is also a helping verb. If we put the will in the sentence, it goes like this. The governor realized his mistake, so with the ability he has as a governor, he will abolish the law. Because he is a governor, he has the power to abolish the law. So ability here states that the governor has the power to abolish the law. Next slide, number 4. Number 4 sentence. Long, long ago, there lived a poor farmer and his aged mother in a village where a cruel governor blank tests the capacity of his people in following his demands. So the scrambled word is DOLUW. So if we arrange the scrambled word, it goes like would. So if we put it in the sentence, it goes like this. Long, long ago, there lived a poor farmer and his aged mother in a village where a cruel governor would test the capacity of his people in following his demand. So when we say the capacity, it has the capacity to do something. So the answer is would. Number 5, the governor once again expressed his ability to use his power by demanding that his people, blank, bring him rope of ashes. Using the clever idea of his mother, the farmer made a rope of ashes. So, the scrambled word is UMST. So, if we arrange the scrambled word, it goes like must. So, if we apply must in the sentence, it goes like this. The governor once again expressed his ability to use his power by demanding that his people must bring him a rope of ashes. Using the clever idea of his mother, the farmer made a rope of ashes. So the underlying word is ability. So ability means that you have the power or the ability to do something. Because if he is a governor, he has the power to demand a rope of ashes. So I guess that's all. So class, can I ask you something? Do you have any idea on what we are going to tackle for today? Okay, I guess none of you had no idea about our topic for today. So our topic for today is all about use of modal nouns, verbs, and adverbs. But before we proceed to our topic, let me just remind you about our classroom rules. So if I raise one finger, everyone should sit properly. And if I raise two fingers, everyone should listen while the teacher is still talking in front of you. And third, if you want clarification or answers or questions, you have to raise your hand. Okay? Okay. So before that, let's first have our objectives. At the end of the lesson, 75% of students should be able to A. Identify the appropriate use of modal verbs, nouns, and adverbs by choosing the correct modal. Letter B. Describe the use of proper modal by writing a sentence based on the given pictures. And C. Reflect on the lessons in the form of a short essay. So our topic today, I guess I've already said, it's all about the use of modal nouns, verbs, and adverbs. So can any one of you have an idea what is modal? In your own definition, what is modal? Okay, quiet means you don't have any answers. Okay, so class, modal, when we say modal, modal is an expression that carries different shades of meaning. So there are three types of modals. There are modal, verbs, nouns, and adverbs. Let's first go to modal verbs. So we all know that verbs is an action word. But when we say modal verb, this is our auxiliary or helping verbs which modify or change the meaning of the main verb. So the uses of this is giving advice, giving suggestions, making requests, giving propositions, and giving predictions. So there are list of sample sentence here in the modal verbs. So they use the modal and the sample verb. So if we use the really certain word, the modal that we use are will, shall, must, won't or will not, shouldn't or shall not, can or cannot. So when we use the modal in the sample sentence, it goes like this. Jana's debut party will be planned secretly. So the will there is the modal verbs because it changed the whole meaning of the sentence. Next is if we use very likely, the modal that we use is should, ought, or ought to. For the sample sentence in that, the traffic is not heavy, we should be there before the time. So the should there is the modal verb. Next is if we use the possibility like for what we have in our exercise activity, the possibility, the modal that we use is may, might, or could. So have you remember in our exercise activity, the underlined word is the possibility, but the modal verbs that they use is could. So in the sample sentence, it may rain tonight, today, or rather, it may rain today. So the may there is the modal verb. So it states that there is a possibility that it will rain today. So next is if we use strong obligation, the modal verbs that we use are must, have, to, need to. Sample sentence of that, if we apply that in the sentence, it goes like this. The plan must be accomplished without her knowing it. That is the sample sentence. So next is if we use weak obligation, the modal verbs that we use is should and ought to. Sample sentence of the weak obligation, it goes like this. I should see a dentist. I have a bad breath even though I brush my teeth regularly. So I should. So she is not yet certain. He or she is not certain yet. Next is the use of no obligation. The modal verbs that we use are needed, need not, don't, need, need to, do not, need to, don't have to, do not have to. So when we use it in the sample sentence, it goes like this. I need not brush my teeth now. I will just do it later. So I need not is a modal verb. So it clearly states that in the sentence, it has no obligation. You can see that he or she does not have an obligation because of the modal verbs that they use. Next. So when we use permission, the modal verbs that we use are can, may, could, and might. The sample sentence is, may I borrow your pen? So may there is the modal verbs that we use to ask permission. So it clearly states that he or she wants to borrow a pen from her classmates. Next is use of no permission. The modal verbs that we use are can't, cannot, may not, must not. So the sample sentence there, if we apply the modal verbs in the no permission, it goes like this. You cannot go out without a quarantine pass. So the cannot there is the modal verbs that it is used in the sentence. So cannot means you have no permission to go out without a quarantine pass. So next is use of offer. The modal verbs that we use is will and shall. The sample sentence goes like this. I will bring your things here. So the will here is the modal verbs that is used in the sentence. So it really clearly changed the meaning of the sentence. I will bring your things here. So it clearly states the facts that the person is sure that he or she will bring the things there. Next is use of request, making request. The modal verbs that we use is will, would, and could. The sample sentence being given here is, will you open the windows? So, will you open the windows? So, that person is making a request by applying the modal verbs will in the sentence. Next is use of promise. The modal verbs that they use is will. The sample sentence goes like this. I will come back after sunset. So, in the sentence, they use also the modal verbs will. So, will states that they are sure to come back before the sunset. So, next is use of decision. The modal verbs being used is will also. The sample sentence there is, I will eat now. So, will there is the modal verbs again. So, it clearly states the fact also that that person is going to eat her or his food right now. Next is the use of advice and suggestions. The modal verbs that they are going to use are shall, should, shouldn't, and should not. The sample sentence given is, you should wear appropriate attire for your job interview. So, the should there is the helping verb or the modal verb. Next is the use of ability. So, we have we have already answered our exercise activity. There are underlined words ability there. So, the modal verbs that we use for ability is can and could. So, the sample sentence there is, the students can sing harmoniously. So, can there is the helping verb. Because sing here is also a verb. That's why it states the fact that the student has the ability to sing harmoniously. Next is the use of general truth. The modal verbs that they use are can and may. Sample sentence being given is, we can avoid the COVID-19 by following health protocols. So, can here is the helping verbs, or rather the modal verbs there. It is stating the fact that we can avoid COVID-19 by following health protocols. That is the use of general truth. So let's first have an example for the modal verbs. For example, in the first sentence, Sam is too young to drive a car. In the second sentence, Sam might be too young to drive a car. So does any one of you have any idea what is the difference between the two sentences? Does anyone have any idea? Okay, none. So in the first sentence, Sam is too young to drive a car. So in the sentence, it states the fact that Sam is too young to drive a car. But in the second sentence, Sam might be too young to drive a car. So it states or it expresses the possibility that Sam might be too young to drive a car because of his age. So the might there in the second sentence is an expression of modal which is function as a verb, right? Just what I have discussed earlier. We use possibility. If we use possibility, the modal verbs that we use are may, could, and might. So might here also expresses possibility. There are other things or use that also expresses possibility rather than might. So there are also other modal verbs that we use beside the might. You can use can, shall, may, would, could, will, and shall. That is the difference between the two. So the first sentence here doesn't have modal verbs, while the second sentence has or uses modal verbs might. Is anyone have any questions? Do you understand modal verbs now? Okay, silence means yes. Thank you. Now let's proceed to modal nouns. So what is modal nouns? Modal nouns are nouns that expresses modality. It also expresses the quality or state in some manner other than as a simple fact. Are mostly names of quality or state. So when we say qualities or state, it must be responsibility, necessity, and other things. So our modal nouns are similar to modal verbs in a way that they also expresses modal meaning. Yes, they have different modal meanings in terms of how they use it in a sentence. So modal nouns are different from modal verbs in the way they are used in a sentence. And modal verbs are used to add information to the main verb, when modal nouns name a quality, state, or condition that states modality. So here are the list of sample sentence. So the modal noun possibility, the meaning of it is the condition or fact of being possible. So there is a possible that things will happen in your own way. So the sample sentence, if we apply the modal noun possibility, goes like this. There is a possibility of rain tomorrow. So the word possibility there state that there might be a rain. So when we use might, it is a modal verbs that states possibility. So there is a possibility of rain tomorrow. Next is modal noun. Obligation. Modal noun obligation. The meaning of it is a condition or feeling of being obligated or required. So if you are an obligated person to the things you do, then it is good. When we use it in the sample sentence, students have an obligation to study hard. So here is the obligation. So as a student, we have the obligation to study hard, finish our course, and have a job. That is the obligation of being a student. Next is modal noun necessity, meaning the quality or state of being in need. The sample sentence goes like this. Nowadays, mobile phones are considered a necessity. Yes, as we all know, many generations have passed, so technology have become important to every individual. So it is a necessity. So it is a need for a human, especially now in our current situation, which is we are experiencing pandemic, so technology is really an aid to um, discovering the cure of the COVID-19 and making our economic process well. So next is the modal ability. So meaning the quality or state of being able. So ability, you have the ability or the power, or you have the power to do something. So the sample sentence is, I have a friend who has the ability to read minds. So there is an ability there. So it states that a person have a friend that has the power to or the ability to read minds. So next is the modal noun. Permission. Excuse me. Meaning the right or ability to do something given by someone who has the power to allow or disallow. Yes, permission has the power to allow or disallow something that you want to do. When we use permission in a sample sentence, goes like this. My brother is given permission to play. So, if you have the permission to play, then you have the will to play in your own will. So next is the modal noun request. Meaning of it is the condition or state of being requested or sought after. Sample sentence of request is the sick lady sent a request for medical assistance. So the request here clearly state that the sick lady sent medical assistance for that person. Next is the modal noun promise. So the meaning is a declaration to do or refrain from doing something. Excuse me. So the sample sentence, it is important that when we make a promise, we keep it. Yes, every promises are meant to be broken. I guess they can say that for those person who are experiencing broken promises. That is promise. So next is the modal noun chance. The meaning is the condition or fact or a particular outcome in a certain situation. So the sample sentence goes like this. If Tony works hard, he has a big chance of succeeding. So if Tony really works hard for his job, then he has a big chance of achieving or succeeding in his job. Next is the modal noun requirement. The meaning is a condition that something is needed or must be done. So the sample sentence used in the requirement is, during the pandemic, quarantine pass is a requirement if one will go to the grocery store. Yes, we already have experienced that because during quarantine, there are many requirements given for us so that we can go to groceries or markets for buying food. Next is the modal noun responsibility. The meaning is the quality or state of being responsible. The sample sentence used is, it is the parents' responsibility to provide for their children. Yes, as the responsibility here stated that the parents has the responsibility to provide their children's needs. Yes, as a parent, you have to provide the needs of your children, but as a children, you have to also give your best in order to make your parents proud, so that the sacrifices that they made will be